Winter has always been the real enemy. Not armies, not borders, not politics. Cold has killed more people quietly in their sleep than most disasters ever recorded. If you're watching Warfield Prepper Chronicles, you already understand that survival history matters because the past solved problems without electricity, central heating, or synthetic shortcuts. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, leave a comment with your personal experiences, and give this video a like. It helps keep historically grounded, practical knowledge alive and visible. The mistake is using one thick blanket and thinking weight equals warmth. The single biggest error people make in winter is relying on one heavy blanket to do all the work. This mistake feels logical on the surface. Heavier means warmer. Thicker means better insulation. That assumption is modern, and it's wrong. Historically, one blanket sleeping was avoided whenever possible. Not because people lacked materials, but because they understood how heat actually behaves around the human body during long winter nights. A single blanket compresses under its own weight. When insulation compresses, it loses trapped air. Trapped air is what slows heat loss. Once that air is crushed out, the blanket becomes little more than a cold, dense layer resting on your body. This is why people wake up cold at 3 a.m, despite starting the night warm. Body heat escapes steadily, and the blanket no longer holds it. Medieval households, early modern soldiers, frontier settlers, and rural Europeans did not sleep under one heavy covering, unless they had no other choice. Multiple lighter layers were the standard, not the exception. This wasn't folklore. It was lived experience passed down through winters that killed the unprepared. Layering blankets creates dead air space, which is the real source of warmth. Warmth does not come from fabric. It comes from still air trapped between layers. Every historical cold-weather sleep system relied on this principle, whether people understood the physics or not. When you layer blankets, each layer creates a pocket of unmoving air. Those pockets slow heat loss dramatically. This is why 2 thin wool blankets outperform one thick modern comforter in an unheated room. Wool breathes while trapping heat. Linen sheets beneath wool prevent moisture build-up. An outer layer blocks drafts. Each layer has a function, and together they form a thermal system rather than a single barrier. In winter conditions, especially in older homes, cabins, tents, or off-grid shelters, this matters more than room temperature. Cold floors, stone walls, and night drafts pull heat downward and outward. Layering stops that process. One blanket cannot. Another overlooked issue is what happens after several hours of sleep. When you lie under a single blanket, your body weight flattens it against the mattress. The areas around your shoulders, hips and legs lose insulation first. This creates cold spots that wake you repeatedly throughout the night. Historical bedding setups address this by spreading insulation across layers rather than concentrating it in one piece. A lighter blanket directly over the body, another above it, and sometimes a coverlet or quilt on top, ensured that no single layer bore all the pressure. Even if one layer compressed, the others remained effective. This is especially important for older adults, people with slower circulation, and anyone sleeping in sustained cold. Sleep disruption from cold was understood historically as dangerous. Poor sleep weakened immunity and judgment. That knowledge came from experience, not theory. Moisture is the enemy of warmth. The human body releases moisture constantly during sleep. When trapped under one thick blanket, especially synthetic materials, that moisture condenses. Damp insulation loses effectiveness rapidly. Traditional winter bedding avoided this by combining breathable materials. Linen or cotton next to the skin wickeded moisture away. Wool layers retained warmth even when slightly damp. Airflow between layers prevented condensation build-up. If you wake up cold despite being covered, moisture is often the cause. This is why soldiers in winter campaigns rotated blankets and aired bedding whenever possible. Dry insulation was survival, not comfort. Historical winter sleep systems were built from the ground up. Another part of the one-blanket mistake is ignoring what's beneath you. Cold rises from the ground faster than it falls from the air. Sleeping with one blanket on top, but nothing insulating below, guarantees heat loss. Historically, people layered straw mattresses, wool pads, folded cloaks or spare blankets beneath them. The top layers were only half the system, you know. Without bottom insulation, even the best blanket fails. This is directly applicable today, honestly. In winter, placing a folded blanket or wool pad beneath your torso can raise perceived warmth dramatically without adding weight. This principle is used in military cold-weather sleep systems, and really it has not changed in centuries. If you're dealing with cold nights right now, the solution is not buying a heavier blanket. It's restructuring how you sleep, plain and simple. Start with a breathable base layer. Add a medium-weight wool or wool blend blanket. Place a second lighter blanket above it. Finish with a draft-blocking outer layer. Even a simple quilt or coverlet will do. Underneath, insulate the mattress. One folded blanket beneath your torso does more than another on top, believe it or not. If drafts are an issue, tuck the outer layer around the sides, not tightly over the body, but just enough to stop air movement. This setup mirrors what was used in European winters for centuries. It works in modern homes, off-grid cabins, and emergency situations alike. Cold kills quietly. It drains energy, disrupts sleep, and weakens decision-making. In prolonged winter conditions, poor sleep becomes a compounding risk. Historically, those who understood thermal layering slept better, stayed healthier, and survived longer. This is why blanket knowledge belongs in preparedness discussions. It requires no power, no fuel, and no technology. It works during outages, fuel shortages, and extreme weather events. It is repeatable, reliable, and proven. Modern culture teaches convenience. History teaches resilience. This is one of those lessons that never expired. If this breakdown added something real to your understanding of winter survival and historical living, make sure you're subscribed to Warfield Prepper Chronicles and give this video a like. Share it with someone who thinks heavier always means warmer. Knowledge like this only survives if it's passed on. Stay prepared, stay warm, and we'll see you in the next one.